For thousands of years, man has found value in building great big things. And for thousands of years, when somebody wants a great big thing built, then some other guy has to figure out not only how to build it, but how to move it. And for thousands of years, one company has been heralded as the leader in not only building, but coordinating the transportation of great big things. And that company is HICO America. Well, okay, maybe not thousands of years, but at least since 1962. I've always been fascinated with how people get things done, and HICO is a company that really gets things done. This is the story of how a new power plant in an isolated location in the middle of America was able to get their 400-ton behemoth of a transformer built and delivered on time, within budget, and without injury to the crew, the unit, or the infrastructure of the state of Illinois. Thanks, HICO, for not messing up my state. So what makes HICO so unique? Well, HICO is one of those companies that makes cool stuff. It's stuff that as little kids we usually see it behind tall fences as we drive down the highway to Grandma's house. And we think, wow, where'd that stuff come from? Well, there's a good chance it may have come from HICO.
I think HICO excels above our competition is because we have a very good team with experience. We have delivered to basically everywhere in the U.S., large, small, medium-sized transformers, and they've all been successful deliveries. And with that experience, we've built a first-class team in our HICO Pittsburgh office. And the fact that it's a Pittsburgh office also lets our customer have face-to-face interactions, and if they need an answer, they get it in real time.
Speaking of real time, here we are at the port of New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's almost time for HICO's latest project to arrive, a transformer unit weighing in at nearly 1 million pounds. She's slated to be here at the 7th Street Wharf in just about 5, 4, 3, oh look, it's early. Now it actually took about half an hour for this honker to dock, so let's speed this up a bit. Well, with the help of a tugboat, parallel parking is a cinch. Docked and ready for inspection, customs officials and Homeland Security agents give the official okie dokie, and our crew is allowed to board and get our first peek at the HICO transformer. And there she is, resting at the bottom of the ship's cargo hold, waiting to move to the specially modified barge tied off to the port side of the vessel. This is Vince Shue. The moment the transformer lands on his barge, he will be responsible for it until it's offloaded in Illinois.
About the transformer?
Yeah.
So what we did, we took those drawings and we have a marine engineer that will actually draw up the plans to tell us exactly where to put it on the barge, how to lash it for safe transit. So off those blueprints, we mounted those beams today, attached them to the barge so they won't move when they're trying to set the transformer down on it. And then we have pad eyes already placed in position that we will use to lash it. I'm sorry?
Well, it looks like Vince has a lot going on, so we'll let him focus while we check out the cargo hold. Now, you might think they'd just hoist this puppy out of here using these giant cranes, but hold your horses, cowboy. Few things need to happen to make sure the boat stays afloat. The weight of this transformer is about the same as 200 cars, or 80 elephants, or 2 empty 747s. So to counter all of that weight, a computer keeps the ship balanced by pumping water into the hull as the transformer is lifted over the side. Meanwhile, the guys down in the cargo hold are working to inspect the unit to make sure nothing was damaged in transit. The crew is constantly aware of the dangers involved. With 400 tons of weight nearly 5 stories down and heavy cables swinging everywhere, this is no place for the meek. Most of these guys have been doing this a long time, and while they may crack a joke or two, everybody is keenly aware that there's a big job to be done, and it'll take all of their combined efforts to make it happen. This guy in the green helmet is Ron Rose. He's the port captain, and it's his job to oversee everything that happens aboard the vessel. He makes sure that everything's by the book, because the ship, the multi-million-dollar transformer, and about 100 lives are in his hands. Down on the barge, Vince is double-checking all of the measurements.
And you'll see whenever the transformer comes out, there should be a mark up here. The transformer should be right there in the corner of it.
Okay.
Should be right there, and then we'll have two ratchets going out to hold it down on both ends, on that end and that end. And then we're going to add two more pad eyes per side to keep the transformer from being top heavy.
Okay.
We've been given the green light to begin the lift. The giant cranes kick into gear and begin hoisting the transformer from the belly of the ship. Now, it might look like it's moving slowly, but this is actually 900% faster than real time. Yeah, this is real time. Aren't we thankful for time-lapse? This process takes about 2 hours, so let's push the time-lapse button again, please. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about!
Now, if it were to go ahead and tip over, where do you recommend I go?
Me and you are going that way fast.
Okay.
That's showing the center of that load. So we're going to put that center right. I've got a mark on the barge where it's the center of the barge. That mark will be on that.
Schematics of marine engineers calibrate the exact location for where the unit needs to land so that it's perfectly balanced on the barge. Now watch closely. You can see the barge react to the weight of the transformer. Right there. Did you see it? Let's roll it back. Now watch again closely. 3, 2, 1, boom. 400 tons of crushing weight now rests on the barge. And now the team can celebrate because they have Oh, wait a minute. Here comes the port captain, and he looks none too happy, and it doesn't look like Vince is satisfied either. The unit is sitting a mere 1.5 inches off of his mark, and it would probably ride fine, but Vince knows that HICO isn't satisfied with fine. HICO demands perfection. So Vince gives the order to try it again. Everyone has a job to do, to communicate what needs done. Even the tug captain. He throttles forward to put pressure against the barge, which helps keep it from bobbing up and down in the water. Ron signals the crane operators as Vince checks the marks, and after nearly 2 hours of painstaking work, finally,
we're good here.
Perfection.
That's not bad. I can live with that.
Well, okay, perfection within 1/4 inch. Vince takes a final walk around the unit to make sure that everything is square.
I'm good here, Chris. Another job well done, right?
Before taking off, iron workers weld the final pad eyes to the deck and ratchet down the load.
So how's it feel now that you have it set?
It feels like I'm responsible for it now. If you do all your homework and you do your marine engineering, everything goes smooth. It's when you try to cut corners, that's when you get in trouble.
And so does it feel like there's a 400-ton weight off your shoulders or on?
It kind of feels like it's on right now.
And it will stay on his shoulders as the barge makes its way up the Mississippi, up the Kaskaskia, and stops at a makeshift port near Marissa, Illinois. The barge has been on the move for about 3 weeks, and today she's due to arrive at the port that had to be created to offload the transformer. And here she is, only 9 miles from her final destination, so close yet still so very far away. So much has to happen before they can even think of rolling this monster off the barge. Things like building a bridge to connect the barge with the land, that's all. But HICO's team makes it look easy. Now that that's done, we're still a long way from load-off. These orange things are hydraulic jacks capable of hoisting 200,000 pounds each. They'll lift the transformer just enough to create room for the transport trailer to slide underneath. Engineering the ground transport is Wes Knapp.
One of the things about our moves, the type of business that we're in, is there is no cookie cutter. There is no set template that you can just send to every job and work out. We have to look at each obstacle, each complication, and design or modify our systems to facilitate the move. And you have a lot of different areas that you have to take into consideration. You have the structures, you have the size limitations, overpasses,
Like
bridges that we go over, pipes. For a move of this type, you have to go down to the water lines and the sewer lines and drain pipes and culverts. This is a floodplain that we're in right now. So the area has a lot of drainage pipes, and each of those have to be analyzed, especially when you're off of a main thoroughfare. You know, this is a remote location, a remote construction site, and there was no design construction on the road transit system. So 2 years ago, we came here to the site, found a route, and started the engineering process. And so you survey all these routes, and you get them in together, and then you decide, okay, we have the criteria now, which is going to be the most feasible, which is the most economical, and then which do we likely think we're going to get approval process through. Because we have to go through the villages, the road commissioners, the counties, the state, and all of those entities have the ability to come in and say no.
That sounds like a nightmare. Like a paperwork, red tape nightmare.
Well, you're dealing with a lot of politicians, and it is a lot of red tape. There is a lot of there is a lot of discussions that have to go on. They're not used to these types of loads. They don't know what to expect. To us, it may be, you know, another day at work. For them, this is a totally unknown, and they don't want to have a mess on their hands that they have to explain to their constituency. So from a hauler's perspective, we're not political, okay?
Right.
We're not here, we don't answer to the governor, we don't answer to the townships or the mayors or whatever. Ultimately, we worked with them, showed them that it could be done, showed them that it could be safely done, showed them that there were limited numbers of options. There wasn't another agency that could step in and say, why don't you use my roads, or why don't you go my way?
How will you feel when the third one is loaded in?
When this project's over, I'll feel good, but you know, in all honesty, there'll be another one right behind it. So.
Well, it's time for me to get out of the way because here comes the platform trailer. It's basically your average remote control car, except that it weighs about 200,000 pounds and has 256 separate wheels with hydraulic capabilities. Are you kidding me? This is awesome. Well, it's going to take some time to load the transformer, so Wes agreed to take us to a bridge down the road that needed some special reinforcement to handle the load.
As we looked at this challenge, this bridge is about 180 foot long. How do you take something that's about 1.3 million pounds over top of it? This design that we came up with, we drove piles down underneath the bridge. These piles go down about 65 feet into bedrock.
These beams, the steel beams, are those just here for this?
That's correct.
And then they'll come out?
They will come out. When we first negotiated with the county, they wanted these pulled out every time a load went across, because this is a floodplain. So what we did is we came back and negotiated a maintenance contract where should there be a flood condition and should there be a debris that gets in there, we'll immediately come and clean it out. The advantage is we leave our structure in place, our substructure in place. It's been an interesting process. You don't have to do this every time. And go back to the statement that I told you, there is no cookie cutter. You know, the next bridge that I have to cross that's 180 foot long, I'm not sure this application will work. It's fit to the, it's unique. Everything, the pieces of the puzzle all have to come together, and they're not interchangeable necessarily. One of the things that you'll see on the move is that we have other bridge structures. There is an 80-foot structure that is not capable of shoring. So we had to come up with an alternative, and that alternative is to completely jump the structure. So we'll have a 120-foot bridge built over top of that bridge. That bridge will not see any weight.
Something that does have all of that weight right now is the transport trailer. And right now, it's about to roll off the barge. They make this look so easy. As the unit rolls off the barge, water is billaged out of the hull. And after a hard day of work, the transport trailer finally comes to a stop for the day. But tomorrow morning, it's bright and early. Well, it's a blustery cold day with rain in the forecast. Not a perfect day for a move, but no rest for the weary. HICO has a schedule to maintain. The transformer still has 9 more miles to go with complex obstacles to conquer. Obstacles like the quaint little village of Lindsborg, Illinois, where things like this just don't happen every day. So even on a cold, dreary day like this, the Lindsborgians still come out to check out the hoopla. And you gotta admit, it is kind of like a parade. You can almost hear the marching band. And while there are no Shriners riding mini bikes with funny hats, there is a really cool float that happens to weigh 1.2 million pounds. So with only one entry in the ginormous float category, HICO wins the blue ribbon. And the onlookers take in their last few photos, wave goodbye, and walk across the street to their house. But don't forget to count the wheels there. There you go. And the transformer continues down the road toward the next big obstacle. Remember that bridge Wes took us to visit? Well, conditions have changed. The rain fell hard overnight, and that little creek is now a rushing river. Wes and his team inspect the undergirding of the bridge to determine if there are any problems. Wes says that all of this water will not affect the integrity of the bridge. Don't believe me?
It will not affect the integrity of the bridge.
See what I
How's
mean?
your team holding up?
Oh, the team's doing great. I think they'd like to see the sun come out and see it warm up a little bit, but ultimately they've performed right on expectations. We finished yesterday about an hour and a half ahead of what the anticipated schedule was, so with all the little quirks that we had to work out, you know, the soft shoulders, a little bit of an issue climbing some of the jumpers because it was wet, slick, and the mud was bearing down on the trailer, the shoulders of the road. We still made it ahead of schedule. No interruptions, no major issues.
The reason there are no major issues is because of all the preliminary work that is done trying to solve those problems before they happen. That's what HICO does. As the trailer arrives, steel ramps are in place to help distribute the load at the seam dividing the highway from the bridge. But there's a problem.
What's happening, Wes?
Just had a ramp scoot on us, just getting it lined up back up, and we'll be crossing this bridge shortly.
Using these crowbars, the team maneuvers the ramps back as far as they can, and then the transport trailer gets involved. They chain the ramp to the trailer and pull it right back into alignment. So now that phrase, "cross that bridge when you get there," has never made so much sense. This is the moment of truth, where all of the additional shoring gets put to the test. Slowly and surely, the team crawls over the bridge at a breakneck, glacier-fast speed of about 1. And picking up pace as she leaves the bridge, we rev it up to about 3 miles per hour now, and another bridge awaits just a few clicks down the road. The rain on the jump bridge makes it a little tricky, but Wes is confident in the engineering. And of course, the bystanders find it fascinating to watch. Well, most of the bystanders. Apparently this guy has seen it all. The final day of transport, a day of triumph. One last bridge to jump with the plant waiting only a mile away like a groom waiting at the altar for his bride to walk down the aisle. Except in this case, the bride weighs 400 tons. Let's take this puppy home. As many times as they've done this, there is always a sense of pride and accomplishment when a unit makes its way through the gates, and the team is only a short distance from that proverbial sigh of relief. But it's all in a day's work, or shall I say 2 years' work for HICO and their partners. Thousands of miles and man-hours and not a single scratch. It's what HICO has been doing for 5 decades. It's what they do better than anyone else. Build unique requests and deliver in mint condition.
It's here where it's supposed to go. How do you feel?
Feeling good, except for I'm wondering why the sun broke out right now. And we needed it 3 days ago. But yes, feel good. The unit's here, safe, no damage, crew function well, success.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks so much for sharing everything with us.
Well, glad to have you along. Thanks.
Take care.
It never gets old watching a satisfied customer seeing their transformer arrive at the project site, knowing that all the energy spent on a project like this, the final piece comes to place and you have a satisfied client, which obviously is the ultimate goal of HICO America.
HICO America, a world-class company with world-class service.